All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty interesting today, something you guys have been asking about.
Yeah.
Trump's gold card proposal for U.S. citizenship.
Mm,
You sent over this YouTube video from First Post.
right.
And I got to say, some of the numbers they're throwing around in this thing are,
Yeah.
they're pretty wild, right? Like $5 million for a shot at citizenship.
Wow.
50
Yeah.
trillion in potential revenue.
Mm.
I mean, I don't even know what $50 trillion looks like.
It's a lot of zeros.
It's a lot of zeros, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to try to unpack this whole thing, what
Yeah.
this gold card actually is, how it compares to the existing, like the EB-5 program,
Right.
and explore some of the benefits, but
Yeah.
also some of the controversies surrounding this thing,
For sure.
because it's definitely controversial.
It is.
So one thing that struck me right away is that,
Yeah.
this is coming at a time when Trump, I mean, he's back in the White House now, and he's taking this a pretty hard line on immigration, right?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
more deportations, stricter border control,
Walls. Yeah.
walls,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So how does this gold card, how does this fit into that picture?
Well, I think, you can see it as kind of a two-pronged approach, right?
Okay.
So on the one hand, you've got this really, really strict enforcement of existing immigration laws.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you've got this, like, brand new pathway
Yeah.
designed to attract a very specific type of immigrant,
Got it.
the super, super wealthy.
So basically it's like if you've got $5 million lying around,
Yeah.
you get a golden ticket to the American dream.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The video mentions that for $5 million, you get quote-unquote green card privileges.
Right.
Play LS, a path to citizenship.
Mm.
So what does that actually mean? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, so a green card, also called a permanent resident card, that basically gives you the right to live and work in the U.S. permanently.
Okay.
And it also opens the door to applying for U.S. citizenship down the line.
Gotcha.
So this gold card seems to be offering a shortcut to all those benefits.
Okay.
You can kind of bypass all the usual channels and the wait times.
So if you've got the cash, you can basically jump to the front of the line.
Yeah, essentially.
Wow. Okay, so we've established this is for the 1% of the 1%, right?
Definitely.
Like $5 million is,
Not your average Joe.
no, not at all. So let's say you're one of these, these super rich folks.
Yeah.
What's the appeal? What are the benefits of getting this gold card?
So the people who are really pushing for this program, they argue that it could bring in a ton of foreign investment,
Okay.
which would lead to more businesses, more jobs, a boost to the whole economy.
Right.
Plus, you've got the potential for all this extra tax revenue from these wealthy individuals.
Okay, so on the surface, it sounds like a pretty good deal for the U.S., right?
Yeah, at least on paper.
But the video also hinted at some downsides,
Right.
like concerns about economic inequality.
Right.
What are those concerns?
Well, some people are worried that this program could make the gap between the rich and the poor even bigger.
Okay.
It could concentrate wealth and power in the hands of a tiny, tiny elite.
Right.
And they also worry about creating a two-tiered immigration system where you basically have to be rich to get in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it kind of raises the question of, like, is it fair?
Right.
You've got millions of people waiting patiently in line to immigrate,
Yeah.
following all the rules.
Yeah,
And then you've got this select group that can just, like, buy their way in.
exactly.
How do you think that would go over with the general public?
I think it's definitely a point of contention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
They said this gold card program could generate $50 trillion in revenue.
50 trillion.
I mean, come on, that sounds crazy, right?
Duh.
Where do they even come up with that number?
Well, if you do the math, it's actually pretty simple.
Go.
If they sell 10 million of these gold cards at $5 million each,
Yeah.
that adds up to 50 trillion.
Okay, but that's assuming they can find 10 million people who want to buy these things, right?
Right.
And that everyone who buys a card actually follows through with their investments.
Exactly. There are a lot of assumptions built into that number.
Yeah, it sounds a little too good to be true, honestly.
They might be.
Okay, so maybe attracting wealthy immigrants and boosting the economy isn't as easy as just selling a bunch of golden tickets.
Yeah, it's definitely more complicated than that.
Okay, so you mentioned that this gold card program could replace the existing EB-5 program,
That's right.
which, for people who don't know, that's the current investor visa program, right?
Yeah, that's been around for decades.
So to understand this gold card thing, we got to understand the EB-5 program.
Exactly. We need some context.
Okay, so can you give us like a quick rundown of how the EB-5 program works?
Sure. So it's basically a way for foreign investors to get a green card by investing a pretty significant chunk of money.
Okay.
Right now, it's at least $900,000 into a U.S. project that qualifies.
Gotcha.
And one of the big things is that the investment has to create at least 10 jobs.
10 jobs.
For American workers.
Okay, so it's kind of like attracting foreign investment and creating jobs.
Right.
Seems like a win-win.
In theory, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And it has brought in billions of dollars in foreign investment over the years.
Wow. Okay.
But the EB-5 program has had its share of issues.
Yeah, the video mentioned some of those issues.
Right.
Like they were talking about limited quotas and long backlogs.
Huge backlogs.
Especially for people from China and India.
Yeah, it's really tough for them.
It sounds like a pretty bogged down system.
It is.
Like really slow.
Yeah, it's gotten really congested.
Yeah.
There's a limit on how many visas they can give out each year. And way more people want to apply than there are visas available.
Oh, wow.
So people end up waiting for years.
Oh, man. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, a lot of people get stuck in limbo.
And didn't Jared Kushner's family
get
caught up in some EB-5 controversy?
There was that whole thing.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
His family's real estate company, they were accused of using the EB-5 program to get rich Chinese investors to, like,
basically promising them green cards in exchange for investing in their projects.
It was messy.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
Especially with Kushner being like a senior advisor to Trump.
Exactly. Major conflict of interest.
Yeah, so that whole thing kind of threw some shade on the EB-5 program.
Definitely tarnished its reputation.
Yeah, for sure.
Made people question if it was really fair and transparent.
Right. So
it's this gold card thing.
Yeah.
Trump's way of like trying to fix.
Like a reboot.
Yeah, like a reboot. Exactly. Yeah. You know, get rid of the program with all the problems.
Yeah.
And the bad press.
And start fresh.
Yeah, and maybe bring in even more money.
Okay, but it's just raising the price tag.
Well,
and getting rid of the job creation requirement.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it could make the program even more exclusive.
Yeah.
And then those concerns about inequality.
Right, exactly.
Those become even bigger.
We'd just be making the rich richer.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay, so we've talked about the economic stuff.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the bigger picture?
You mean the social and ethical implications?
Yeah, like, what does it even mean to be an American citizen?
Right, that's a huge question.
Is it something you could just buy?
Like a product.
Yeah. That's a tough one.
Or is it, something you earn?
Something you work towards.
Right, like contributing to society, being part of the community.
It really makes you think about what we value as a society.
For sure.
If you could just buy citizenship, does it lose its meaning? That's a great question.
It's a debate that's been going on for a long time.
And this gold card thing.
It really brings it to the forefront.
It does, yeah. So the video also talked about how we can learn from the EB-5 program.
Right. It's a good case study.
Like what worked, what didn't work.
Exactly. We can see what worked, what didn't work.
Okay, so what do you think are the biggest lessons from the EB-5 program?
Well, it definitely shows that you can attract foreign investment this way.
Okay.
And that it can help the economy.
Right.
But it also shows how important it is to have really strong oversight.
Okay.
To make sure things are being done fairly and transparently.
So it's not just about the money.
No, it's about doing things the right way.
Yeah, making sure everyone benefits.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot to think about here.
There is.
But let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
What are the things that will actually determine whether this gold card thing happens?
Well, I think the biggest factor is the political climate.
Okay.
This is a really controversial idea.
Yeah.
And it's going to face opposition.
From both sides.
Oh, yeah, from both sides.
Right.
So that's going to be a big hurdle.
And it would need to get approved by Congress.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. Trump can't just do this on his own.
Okay, so there could be a big fight in Washington over this.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch.
For sure.
So besides the political stuff, what else could affect whether this happens?
Public opinion is going to be huge.
Okay.
If people really hate this idea, it's going to be much harder to get it through.
That makes sense.
And then there's the legal side of things.
Right.
People could sue if they think the program is illegal.
Yeah, if it's like breaking existing immigration laws.
Right. Or if it's discriminating against certain groups.
Okay, so it sounds like this gold card thing is far from a done deal.
It's really up in the air right now.
Yeah. There are a lot of obstacles.
It's a developing story.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see what happens.
It really does feel like we're at this crossroads right now.
Yeah.
Not just with immigration policy, but like
Right.
with how we define what it even means to be American.
Yeah, absolutely.
This whole idea that you could just buy your way into citizenship.
It's
It's
a big question.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we value as a society?
Exactly. And this proposal
Yeah.
really brings that question to the forefront.
It does. It makes you think, like, are we all about money?
Right.
Or are there other things that matter more?
Yeah, it's about values.
Yeah. And it's interesting to think about this
Yeah.
in the context of, like,
Right.
globalization and everything.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a world where
Yeah.
borders are becoming more and more fluid.
Especially for the wealthy.
Exactly. Especially for the wealthy.
Yeah.
So this Gold Card program, it's almost like
Yeah.
a symptom of that trend, right?
It is. It's like a
Yeah,
like a microcosm of what's happening globally.
exactly. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, if this were to happen in the U.S.,
Yeah.
what kind of message would that send to other countries?
Right. Like, would other countries follow suit?
Yeah, exactly. Would they start telling citizenship too?
It's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
the U.S. is often seen as a leader.
Right, yeah.
So if we go down this road,
Yeah.
who knows what other countries might do?
So we're not just talking about,
Yeah.
like, an American issue here.
It has global implications.
Yeah, this could have ripple effects
For sure.
all over the world.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
We talked about this Gold Card proposal.
Mm.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Right.
We compared it to the EB-5 program,
Yeah.
talked about the ethics of it all.
Mm.
What are your, like, big takeaways from this whole thing?
Well, I think the main thing is that this is a really, really big shift
Okay.
from how we've traditionally approached immigration in the U.S.
Yeah, like, it's a whole new way of thinking about it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it raises some really fundamental questions
Yeah.
about what it means to be an American.
Right, and whether money should be
Yeah.
a deciding factor.
Exactly.
And for our listeners out there
Yeah.
who've been following this whole Gold Card thing, I think the big takeaway is that
Yeah.
this isn't just about policy.
Right.
It's about, like, who we are
It's about our values.
as a country.
Yeah.
What do we stand for?
What do we prioritize?
What do we believe in?
Big questions.
Big questions, yeah. And the answers to those questions, they're going to shape the future of this country.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the U.S.
Right.
This has global implications.
It does, yeah. So we
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
we need to pay attention to this.
We need to be informed
Yeah, and have these conversations.
and make our voices heard.
Yeah, exactly, because ultimately
Yeah.
it's up to us
We all have a role to play.
to decide what kind of future we want.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.